All right, man. So it looks like we got some breaking news here. So some pretty huge news for Kamala Harris in the polls. What we know is that she is actually rebounding in the polls from the debate. The results from the debate, as it pertains to the actual question, she did actually definitely win the debate, but the numbers were a bit weaker than both Biden's first debate numbers and Hillary's first debate numbers. So she may not have done as well as some people may have hoped, but she's actually bouncing back from this kind of contraction that she was having in the national aggregate polling, where she was actually contracting by a point to a point and a half in the aggregate. So she's dropping off a little bit. But there's a new slew of polls. We'll be getting these almost daily, where you'll get like 1 to 2 to 3 polls per day that is coming out. And so we have this surge happening right now. So we got this first poll we're looking at here. It's a Harris X poll. Ironically, they share the same name, but Harris X is kind of notorious for really hating Kamala Harris in the polls for some reason. But what we're able to see is Harris X C-rated pollster, 3108 registered voters, 913. It's a bit of a large sample size, so I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing. But it says new general election poll, Harris 52%, plus 4, Trump 48%. So this is a really, really massive surge because the prior poll was 726, Trump plus 2. Keep in mind here, the plus 4 is actually above today's aggregate, which is 2.9 by 1.2. But this Trump plus 2, even though it's old, if you look here, 726, July 26th, she's already up by 0.2. So they're over 2 points away from the aggregate. So that's a little bit suspect. But it's a huge surge of 6 points. Again, this plus 4 is larger than where Kamala Harris is in the aggregate. And then always, when we look at a poll, we always have to say one thing. Is Kamala Harris cracking 50, right? Is she cracking 50? And she is cracking 50 in this one, 52 to 48. I would say, though, I think this poll is overestimating both of the candidates. Trump is definitely not 48 in a head-to-head. He didn't even get 47 last time in 2020. And then for Harris, I don't think she's at 52 yet as well. I think there's still like 3 to 5% of the electorate that's actually undecided. I think in a head-to-head, she actually could reach 52%. But because of the third parties involved, she's probably only going to end up getting between 48 and 50. But regardless, I don't think that she's at 52 right now. Even in a head-to-head, I think there's still people undecided. However, I think in a head-to-head, she would get to that point. But we can actually go ahead and take a look here at the Harris X polls. We can see here. So for this one is plus 3 and plus 4. We can see in these polls right here. And then if you look at the Harris X Harris poll, that was September 4th through 5th, it was even for both of them. This is not the exact same poll. But then we could see here for this Harris X poll, it was plus 1, plus 2. That was sponsored by Deseret. But if we look at the past one that was actually sponsored by Forbes, which is the same one, you can see it's a sea of red. This is in late July. So it was a while ago, but the thing is, at that point, she was already leading by like 0.2 in the aggregate. So they were kind of off from the aggregate by a couple points. So a large surge here for Kamala Harris's first poll, but there are more. We also have her net favorability actually reaching positive plus 0.1 in the 538 aggregator for the first time. So that's also some pretty large news. If we take a look at the favorability ratings, if we look at Kamala Harris, we're able to see here for the first time since July 8th, 2021, we can see that she's actually net favorable. Now, for this to be really impactful, I think she needs to get to 50% favorability, which would be a big indicator. If she can get to 50 and Trump gets down to like 42, Trump is schmucked. There should be no possible way for him to win that. Now, favorability is actually the biggest indicator for somebody who's trying to go for re-election. So the good news is his favorable is low as fuck, which is really sick. So he's down to 42.8. So his favorable rating in this aggregator is much lower than the double D's one, the Decision Desk HQ numbers. But if his favorability is 42.8 and she can get up to 50, oh, it's over. There's no possible way to win. There's no way you can lose that. There's no way. Because Hillary lost with the favorable advantage, but the problem was Hillary wasn't above 50%. She was at like 43 or 46 or something like that, right? So if you're above 50 and then your opponent's at like near 40s, like low 40s, you should be like guaranteed to win. So literal new highs that have not been seen for 3 years. 3 years. We have this Monmouth poll here that's plus 5 for Harris, 49 to 44. They're an A+ rated pollster, RV 915. I think with the 5% of national polling lead, she's probably looking at eking out like a small victory. I think that's kind of inevitable, though, with the way that the states are standing right now. You're kind of going to win. Only states like Michigan could really be won by a lot of votes, and that lot of votes would be like 2%, maybe 3%. But another big poll, and that's 8 plus. We got another huge poll coming out from JL Partners. I remember these guys because they were another pretty big holdout for Donald Trump. So it says new general election poll. Harris is at 43%, +1 to Trump's 42%. Again, a measly +1, which is pretty surprising. It says last poll 811, Trump +2, and JL Partners D-rated 1001 likely voters dated 9/16. So a 3-point surge. The last one was on 8/11. They're a really trash tier pollster. I honestly consider any pollster, even C-rated, to be shit tier. But D is like complete garbage. But a 3-point surge somehow, some way. Shout out to the gays. You have here 43-42 for Kamala Harris. So somehow the sum is 85. So there's still 15% outstanding. We could take a look at this poll here, in this aggregator as well. That just goes to show you how bad they are in terms of like their polling numbers. But you can see like somehow there's so much outstanding, and then this had so much, right? Like 7, 8, 9 outside of this, so it's like much closer. This is just pure insanity. But a big surge though when we look at the surging numbers, multiple polls surging for Kamala Harris, and I have to say it's not over. So also just to let you know, key you in. The poly market numbers did actually temporarily flip for Kamala Harris, 51.49. However, that has reverted, I think, back to 51.50 at this point in time. Poly market is a betting site, so don't take it super seriously or anything like that. The night before Walz was actually chosen as VP, Josh Shapiro made like a massive surge. So don't take it super seriously, but, it's worth something. You kind of pay attention to it if you like. It'll kind of give you something. There was this Angus Reid poll that actually had a +4, which is down from a +5, so that one went down 1 from this Angus Reid pollster. And then for our final major surge, we have actually an integer scalar multiple of our prior poll margin. So it says new general election poll, Harris 51%, +6, new high, Trump 45%. The prior poll was actually Harris +3, so it's 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So it's a integer scalar multiple of the prior one. We also have the debate numbers as well. It says Harris 61%, Trump 33%. So again, a weaker performance than both Hillary and Biden, both in their first debates. So a little bit of a probably underperformance. Morning Consult, a C-rated pollster. So again, a bad-rated pollster. They have a suspiciously large sample size. Well, 11,000 is ridiculous. What they're probably doing is just flooding the sample with a bunch of low-quality numbers, which is bad. You want to aim for about like 1,500 people. That's usually like the sort of first order condition. But 11,022 likely voters dated 9/15, a 2-time surge from +3 to +6, 51.45. I think Trump probably is going to get around 45% in the actual general election because of third parties. I think at a head-to-head he probably gets 46 to 47. So this will probably end up being like an accurate reading in real life. And then 51%, I think she would probably get in a head-to-head, but I'm not even sure if that's possible given all the different parties here. But you can see here, this is a head-to-head poll, 51-45, so a 6-point lead. Again, right, still 4% outstanding who are still undecided. So those undecided voters are going to be the ones that end up deciding the election. They're going to be the ones that get to decide who the president of the United States ends up becoming. So that's what it's going to end up coming down to. But if you take a look at the aggregator here, we can see on the 11th, the day after the debate, the lead is 2.4 for Kamala Harris. She hits a low. This is her low in this. This is like her local minimum in this area. It's a local minimum. And then, or if you want to truncate this, it would be like the absolute minimum since, I think, like probably the 10th of August. So she hits that number, but she's bouncing back all the way up to 2.9. So she almost had a 3-point lead again. Now, the thing is, if you do look at these kind of numbers here, if we just take a look at these and I just scroll through, you can kind of see all these post-debate numbers. Honestly, don't know how this is averaging out to 2.9. I'm not even sure how that's possible because the absolute value of these leads, almost none of them are even beneath 3. There's just this one Atlas Intel poll that's just kind of like hoeing everything. So you can kind of see, like, kind of spot the imposter among us. But I think the numbers will naturally grow as more of the old polls start to fall out of the market in terms of these polling numbers. But Kamala Harris having a pretty massive national polling surge, in the days after the debate. And so that's three polls with a massive surge, morning consult doubling, and other ones having even more. So only time will tell, is this going to last? How's it going to go? How's this going to impact the race? We don't know, but we will figure this out. So super interesting news. Kamala Harris also reaching new highs in many of these different polls. The Harris X poll, the Morning Consult poll, she's hit positive favorability for the first time in 3 years. So a lot of movement going on.